Welcome to this daily video. Today, we will explore the fascinating life of Madame de Pompadour, the infamous mistress of Louis XV and one of the most influential women of 18th century France. Far more than just a royal companion, she shaped politics, art, and culture at the glittering court of Versailles. Early life and family background: Madame de Pompadour was born Jeanne Antoinette Poisson on December 29, 1721. In Paris, her mother was Louise Madeleine de la Motte, while her legal father was Francois Poisson. However, doubts quickly arose about her true parentage. At the time of Jeanne's conception, Francois had been away in Provence for many months. Whispers circulated that her real father might have been either Jean Paris de Montmartel, a wealthy financier, or Charles Francois Paul Lenormand de Tourneham, a tax collector who later became her guardian and patron as a child. Jeanne was sent to the convent of the Ursulines to receive a proper education, where she excelled in reading music. In the fine arts, her remarkable beauty and charm did not go unnoticed. A fortune teller even predicted that she would someday rule the heart of a king. Her mother, taking this prophecy seriously, encouraged Jeanne to refine her wit, her talents, and her ability to move gracefully in high society. Marriage and family. In 1741, at the age of 19, Jeanne married Charles Guillaume Lenormand d'Etioles, the nephew of her guardian. The marriage, celebrated at the Church of Saint Eustache, seemed promising. The couple had two children: a son, who tragically died in infancy, and a daughter, Alexandrine Jeanne, affectionately nicknamed Fan Fan. Sadly, Alexandrine also died very young, at just under 10 years old. Despite the tragedies, Jeanne was determined to rise in society. She began attending salons and social gatherings, where she impressed Parisian elites with her intelligence, charm, talent for conversation. Meeting the king, it was widely rumored that Jeanne's destiny was to become the mistress of Louis XV at her husband's estate in Etioles. She deliberately positioned herself near the royal hunting grounds at Senart, hoping to catch the king's attention. For a time, however, Louis was preoccupied with his current mistress, Madame de Châteauroux. That changed after Madame de Châteauroux's sudden death in December 1744. Just a few months later, on February 25, 1745, Jeanne attended a masked ball at Versailles. Dressed as a shepherdess, she finally caught the eye of the king. Captivated, Louis soon elevated her to the rank of Marquise de Pompadour, providing her with lands, a grand title, and a personal coat of arms. Her official presentation at court took place on September 14, 1745, cementing her role not just as the king's mistress, but as one of the most powerful women in France. Influence and power. And like many mistresses of the French court, Madame de Pompadour maintained her influence long after her intimate relationship with the king ended around 1751. She understood that power at Versailles required diplomacy, charm, and careful alliances. She avoided making enemies of the queen and even went out of her way to treat Marie Lecesque with respect. Her intelligence made her indispensable to Louis XV. She entertained him with theater, in music, and witty conversation, while also guiding him in matters of politics and diplomacy. It was Pompadour who encouraged France to form an alliance with Austria during the 7 Years' War, a decision that would later bring criticism when the war ended in disaster for France. She also used her position to elevate her family. She secured titles and estates for her father and brother, ensuring that the Poisson family would be remembered not as commoners, but as nobles. Patron of arts and architecture, Madame de Pompadour is remembered not only as a political figure, but also as a great patron of the arts. She supported artists, musicians, writers, and architects. Under her influence, French art flourished, particularly the Rococo style, which emphasized elegance, pastel colors, and delicate ornamentation. She sponsored the famous porcelain factory at Sèvres, which went on to become one of Europe's most prestigious. She also commissioned plays, ballets, and operas, and was a patron of Voltaire, one of the greatest minds of the Enlightenment. The Marquise loved architecture and interior design, was overseeing massive renovation projects at her many estates. Among her residences were the Élysée Palace, which later became the official residence of the French president, and the Petit Trianon at Versailles, which she sadly did not live to see completed. However, her love of luxury came at a cost. Her lavish spending was criticized, and many accused her of draining the royal treasury at a time when France was struggling financially. Decline and death from 1748 onward. Madame de Pompadour's health declined. She often suffered from tuberculosis and other chronic ailments. By 1764, her condition had worsened dramatically. Despite her illness, Louis XV remained loyal to her, visiting her daily or sending couriers to check on her health. On April 15, 1764, Madame de Pompadour died at Versailles. At the age of 42, the king mourned her loss deeply. As her coffin left Versailles under gloomy skies, Louis XV was heard to remark, "La Marquise n'aura pas beau temps pour son voyage." The Marquise does not have good weather for her journey. She was buried at the Capuchin convent in Paris, although the convent was later destroyed in 1806. Legacy. Madame de Pompadour remains one of the most iconic figures of the French monarchy. Despite her humble origins, she rose to the pinnacle of power in one of Europe's most opulent courts. She influenced politics, art, culture, and fashion, leaving a legacy that still fascinates historians today. This concludes today's video on Madame de Pompadour. So thank you for watching, and don't forget to join us next week, and we'll dive into another captivating chapter of history, this time exploring the rise of the Bun Dynasty.